evening, good morning, uh, depending on wherever you are attending from. It's pleasure to welcome you all for today's session. And before we introduce you to our special guest, let me quickly take you through a brief introduction of Signify. We are very proud of the fact that we have already achieved 100% carbon neutrality in all our operations across world. We are also number one lighting company, be it connected, conventional or LED. Our iconic and flagship brands includes Philips, Color Kinetics, Interact, amongst others. Session. Today we have with us Mr. Ajit Kulkarni. He is Managing Director at Ajit Kulkarni Consultants Pvt Limited. Mr. Ajit has more than 35 years of experience and has completed more than 1200 projects. He is also the author of book Fire Due to Electricity Preventable and has 3 patents to his name. He has also published many technical articles and in journals and magazines over the years. Please join me in welcoming him for today's session. Ajit sir, over to you.
Yeah, good morning who are in US, good afternoon, evening who are in India. Ladies and gentlemen and valued participants, hope you are doing all well and warm welcome to this today's seminar, which is an important topic of the light pollution hidden threat. My sincere gratitude to Signify Lighting Company, their engineers, managers for their full-hearted support, and what we are going to explore in today's webinar is what is the light pollution, then effect of the light pollutions, then related terminologies and applicable standards, the overview of the standards and how to reduce the light pollution. As Socrates has mentioned that we have to go above Earth and explore, then we can understand the world. Really speaking, he is right at his right time, and we have to go above and just see about it. We all grow up listening to the nursery rhyme, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and children are still growing up with it. But where are the stars and celestial objects or the Milky Ways in the sky? A few decades ago, one could see the sky filled with the stars, but nowadays we are left nothing but the sun, moon, and a handful of stars. We are losing the extraordinary phenomenon that was once upon captivated and inspired us. There was one shutdown which happened somewhere in 2003 in US and Canada, and at that time one photograph was taken by the Todd Carlson. Thanks for him. You can see left hand side the photograph wherein all the lights were on, and when the shutdown happened at that time what you could see the sky. So this type of phenomenon nowadays we are unable to see. That's a unfortunate story about it. See why we cannot see such sky nowadays. This is because of the excessive and improper lighting that lit up in the sky, and therefore we cannot see the stars. We may say this is a light pollution. Now, what is really meant by light pollution definition wise? It's if you go with the Encyclopedia Britannica, light pollution is unwanted and excessive artificial light. As per the Dark Sky Organization, it is an improper and excessive use of artificial light. As per Wikipedia, if you see that the light pollution is the presence of unwanted, unhappiness, and excessive artificial light. And as per International Astronomical Light Union, it's an artificial light that's science. So in fact, in short, light pollution is nothing but excessive, unwanted, inappropriate, and not needed artificial light. Now, from where we are getting this light is from the street lights, signage, facade lighting, homes, commercial complex, landscaping, sports complex, like anywhere we are getting this light. And there are two light points happening into that. Two parts are there. One is a usable component, I could say, and another is unusable. Usable gets a task performing and intended, while unfortunately unusable goes onto the wastage. How this light is getting wasted? It is because of the improper design. It could be the incorrect direction of the luminaire, which is not focused to the part which is required. It's an unshielded like bollard lighting, which is going the light upward. There could be the excessive bright light, which is when it is not intended, but we are giving into that. It's a poorly targeted light source and unnecessary light. That's what we are wasting it. Now, what happens is that when this light goes into the atmosphere from this poorly designed and these luminaires, then it goes into the atmosphere and it collides with air molecules, dust particle, aerosol, then atmospheric pollution, water droplets, etc. And what we get is a sky glow. This escape light scatters into the atmosphere and we makes a bright orange appearance in the night sky brighter. This phenomenon is called the sky glow, which we see around the city. The intensity of this sky glow increases as more and more light goes into the atmosphere and further into the sky, the light scatters. Overall, night sky visibility reduces and there is no darkness, but it's illuminated, fortunately, sky. The effect can be seen more when there is a light is more. So something like this, we can see the glow over here and where the more lit up is there, and then we can see the artificial lights which are there. Now this sky glow conceals the faint light which is emitted by the stars. And the light pollution which is happening is washes out the contrast between the darkness of the space and the light coming from the distant stars. It means that effectively it reduces the brightness of the stars and we cannot see the stars and nothing into the sky. And after understanding how and the light pollution is happening, let's see the effect of the light pollution. Now, effect of the light pollution, it means that naturally increase in the energy consumption. The energy what we are consuming is increasing because of this excessive lighting, and then because of that carbon footprint is increasing, cost is increasing, CO2, NOx, SO2 is increasing, and even the particle emission is which is happening. So if we do the excessive lighting, increase in energy consumption. Some of the figures I would like to go upon into that. US consumes nearly 120 terawatt hours. That's a big amount annually, which is a nearly 2 years electricity needs of the New York. And in fact, in India, the street lighting accounts for nearly 1.5% of the total overall consumption and cost over $500 million. And street lights nearly contribute to the 60% of that. This happens in each and every country for that matter. The another effect which is happening is, or I can say the second effect, which is on human health, which is very important because all the human we are having the circadian cycle and the biological clock. It's day awake and sleep into the night. But what happens in the excessive light is there into the night time, it disturbs the clock. And body creates the, as you know, the melatonin, because melatonin brings the sleep, and hence evening melatonin production starts and start preparing a good night's sleep. Sleep boosts the immune system, lowers the cholesterol and proper functioning and many other things. So nighttime exposure to the artificial light and which suppresses the melatonin production, what we are going to get is sleep disorder, depression, fatigue, diabetes, mental health issue, cardiovascular disease, certain types of cancer, eye health, and so on. So, in fact, mood swinging is now today's phenomenon that is also happening because of this. The excessive bright and bluish light at night, because this is what happens into the night time, the normal light which is coming up, that is getting disturbed, and not only that, the blue light because of this TV and mobile which is happening over here, that is also getting into that. And what we come to this is strain of the eyes, eye fatigueness, eye dryness, discomfort, and certain eyelids. So in fact, this blue light is also more dangerous for that matter. Now, what is the effect onto the ecosystem and the wildlife? As a human being, ecosystem and then plants, animals, etc. also depends upon the natural rhythm of the day and night, and that also light effect happens onto them. Their natural behavior changes, their biological process changes, reproduction changes, nourishment happening, their sleep cycle changes, and predators changes are happening into their case also. In fact, disruption of the sleep and reproduction pattern, it is checked everywhere that these nocturnal animals which are there, they have got a good influence onto that for mammals, or you may say toads or frogs, and even birds. So their natural patterns get changes, And because of that, their resting, reproduction, foraging, and other behaviors changes. And in fact, many of the migratory birds which navigate using the stars and the moon, these artificial light unfortunately disorient them and this misdirected birds and animals. And there happens a navigational error into the birds also. This has been seen many of the places, and unfortunately, they collide with the structure, and millions of the birds are die colliding with this unnecessary illuminated light. The many species rely on to the visual signal, like communication and navigation, which is applied to the fireflies and the marine animal. The insects are highly sensitive to the light. In fact, the turtles which are there, they hatch at seashore, although they are staying into the ocean. And the hatchlets which are coming out, they get disoriented. And because of that, there is a problem happening into that. There is a reduction happening onto the total ecosystem. So not only human beings, but the animals and plants and birds also are getting affected into that. It's a thirdly, I will come to the light pollution is a nuisance. See, if suppose anyone is having the room and in which light is penetrating from the street light, how he will be discomfort into that. It's becoming discomfortable, disturbed sleep. Although it is said that more lighting, so I am safe. No, once it is as per the journal which has been produced by the American Medical Association, the glare into the night time can cause the discomfort and the visual disability, and there is an unsafe and crime environment. It is happening. The outdoor lighting is intended to enhance the safety, but unfortunately, it happens in other way also, because the poorly directed light can create a glare or the light enters. When the light enters into the eye, definitely the visibility get reduced down, your reaction time get reduced down, and likely causes of the potential of the accident into the driver. So what happens in the night vision, if the excessive light is coming from the unshielded light, or suppose if you are moving from brightly light area to the excessively light area, then temporary pupils get narrowed down, and because of that temporary blindness happen, so it becomes a dangerous for your traffic, and driver get confused, and because of this temporary blindness and impaired judgment. Another thing which is happening is that improperly shielded and misdirected light, which can result into the light spill, and light goes beyond the intended area and the light trespass is happening. So some light gets reflected, some light gets spill over, and this unintended light can cause the distraction, visual confusion, and difficulty in distinguishing what is relevant information which is there. Another point related to the safety is that if you are traveling into the road and there is no uniformity, then there are patches are there. Even unintended light side by the curve is there, which is not is not lighted properly, then that darkness can happen. And as soon as the thing which happens, then in that case the criminal activities take place. This has been also proved by many of the cases. The another important effect which is happening is that the night sky visibility gets reduced. So professional amateurs, astronomers, casual observers of the night sky, celestial objects who are seeing into that, the scientists who are looking into that, even the astrophotographer, they all study when the night sky visibility is there, and if it is reduced, they are unable to study into that. Another thing is that because of the stargazing which is happening, the astronomy, because for them it is very important, because they have to know the universe, they have to know the history behind these stars, they have to know the science and all that thing, and because of this only there is a technology development is happening. Because of this only we have going into the spacecraft, and there are a lot of things which is happening into the space, and technology advancement is happening. There is a inspiration is happening for our poets and artists. So therefore night sky visibility is very important, and we have to give the respect for that. The natural beauty, the solace and the tranquility what we are getting, and the natural inspiration what we are getting by seeing the stars filled sky is definitely beautiful thing, and we are losing into that. The environment is also affecting as the electricity increases naturally, the fossil fuels increases, there is a eco-structure imbalance happening, environmental condition gets deteriorated, so that's also another problem. UNESCO has already said that we have got right rather to have a pure sky, but we are flouting into that. So therefore, UNESCO's word has to be adhered to it. The electrical safety is another part issue because as soon as the temporary lighting comes, then the load increases, wire sizes increases, and then there is a likely chances of fire and likely chances of shock. This is also being observed. We are getting detached from the nature because of this light pollution. As long as when we are into the day and night cycle, or when there is a living things around, there is some sort of a natural rhythm. There is some environmental connections. So these natural rules, we are plotting into that. And we are disturbing the planet. That is what the conclusion which is coming up out of this. And the ecosystem is getting imbalanced and disturbance into the total economical ecosystem as well as for the planet. It is what being observed. So knowing that the light pollution has all the ill effects onto the human being, onto the animals, wildlife, ecosystem, entire planets, let us understand a few terminologies related to the light pollution. Because when we say the light pollution, it is just only the light pollution what we are talking about. But light pollution is nothing but there are four terms out there. That is sky glow, glare, light trespass, and clutter. The above, this is the one example of the street light, wherein the above light which is going into the sky and which we have seen, the sky glow is happening. So this is a one term. There is a glare is there. This is the road which is there and intent that light is coming over here. Unfortunately, some of the light is getting passed over in the unintended area. So the people over here, for them, this is the glare. So this excessive light which is coming is a direct glare. There is some of the light is going into the buildings, so that becomes a trespass for that. And apart from that, there is another thing is that there is a clutter. You could see a lot of street lighting is there, a lot of path lighting is there, ornamental lighting is there, festival lighting. So this becomes all the clutter into that. So these are the some of the terminologies which is being used into the light pollution related. Now, when any of the subject we have to see, we have to go to the books only. So applicable standard we have to see, the rules, regulation we have to see, and some of the standards, I will not go into the detail of the each and every standard. However, for the information of that, there are many of the standards internationally and nationally. Some of the good standard which has been produced by the IDA and IESA, there are the ISNA standard is there, and many of the standards. These are some of the standard lists from the ANSI, CE, and CIE. Even into the Indian condition, there are some lighting codes are there, IS codes are there, EN standards are in European countries, the FAWA is there, in US there are many codes, CI is there. So there are many standards into that. However, these standards are related to certain issue of the light, say road lighting or say flood lighting, but lighting pollution per se, there are some of the very few standards are there. I would like to overview some of the standards for the benefit of all. Now, very important out of all the standards, the very important standard which I could see is the Model Outdoor Lighting Ordinance. So that is the MLO. The International Dark Association and Illumination Engineering Society, they have made this standard. It's a good standard, what I could see. And there will that important topic which has been covered is the lighting zone, automatic switching requirement. The authority shall establish some curfew time and the total site lumen limit. So considering these four principles, it has been mentioned into that. So considering this, there are some zones has been prepared, that is L0, Z0 zone. So in LZ0 zone, it's related to the wildlife area zone. So in which there will be the zero lighting, zero ambient lighting. LZ1, which is there, is a low ambient light, wherein it is in a rural and low density residential area. The third one is the LZ2, that is the moderate ambient lighting. So in this, what is happening is the light commercial business district and a high density and a mixed use is the residential district. The LZ3 is the moderately high ambient lighting, In this zone, what is happening is the default zone where the large cities, business, and districts are happening. The LZ4 is high ambient lighting. It's a normal lighting which is happening into the large industrial zone, large commercial, and the business houses. So, all considering this lighting zone, the next point, which is coming to the automatic switching requirements, they are suggesting to have the controls provided so that automatically it will be making off all outdoor lighting. And authority shall establish the curfew time. So after that, the light has to be put off completely, considering safety, or otherwise at least it should reduce to the 30%. This is what it had been mentioned, but exception is definitely 24-hour business, which is happening. There is another method which has been told by them, that is a parking space method and hardscape method for the total site lumen. Total installed lumen should be less than the total site lumen limit. And they have given the limit by the limits per space for the various zones. And also, they have given the parking space method, wherein another one, hardscape area method, wherein for the various zone, lumens per square feet has been mentioned, 0.5, 1.25, etc. So suppose there is a LZ2 type of fitting, which is LZ2 type of zone is there. And if the art space area is lakh square feet, then 2.5 into lakh square feet, it means that your lumen should be somewhere into lakh 50,000 only, and select the light fitting accordingly, not excessive lighting. So this is the guideline which has been given by them. Further to that, IEC has upgraded the roadway cutoff classification, which was earlier there. And they have introduced a bug rating. This bug rating is very important from the backlight, uplight, and glare point of view, and which has to be recommended by that, and for which they have given the table into that. We'll go into the detail little bit into this. When we say backlight, it means there are four parts out of that, that is BL, BM, BH, depending upon the where it is, medium to high. And all these direction lights are from the opposite light, because backlight is the back to the street light. Similarly, uplight, there are two components, UL and UH, and they are not reflected onto the surface, but they are going up. And this UL light is a very important light because it should be above the horizontal angle, so we have to curtail that. And there is another part which is there is the glare, that is the third part. See, in which the two components are getting mixed, that is FH FUH zone and BH BUH zone, which has been given into this slide. So these four components add together, that becomes a glare. So if we see this drawing in detail, there is a bug rating has been clearly mentioned. So the first part which is there, which is a forward part, so which has been described with the various angles. Backward part which is there into the four angles, and the upward part into the two angles. So this way the bug rating is specified into this. So it means that if we use the bug rating, then in that case it gives an additional advantage. I will touch upon this subject again. But before that, I would like to talk about that point given into the standard, that is the light shielding for the parking lot illumination, in which they have clarified that above the 90 degrees, there should not be light emitted except certain cases, but that too also they are saying that with the permit only. These limits are set by the MLO for these all the things which have been given into the standard very clearly. Secondly, coming to the high intensity and special purpose lighting, we cannot move this chapter because it is required for the area from the safety point of view. But they are given the limit of 20,000 initial luminaire. Total lighting load also they are given 60,000 limit, except for the aerial laser and the search lighting that they are saying into that. But at the same time, they are making cautious that from authority, you have to take a special permission for sports facility, construction lighting, industrial site, the parking structure, the theme parks, amusement park that they are saying. So special permit is to be taken. All these standards are based on to the basically 5 principles. It should be having a usefulness, It should be having the target because the usefulness with the light should be intended where it is required into that. It should be targeted where the light should be directed where it is required into that. The low lighting levels. So lighting levels should be no brighter than what the layer has been specified into that. There is to be controlled. The lighting has to be controlled accordingly properly. And the color is very important that where they are mentioning, which will come to afterward on to this point. Apart from this MLO, I'll just touch upon this US GBC was also mentioning about this. The US GBC is saying that there has to be the minimum trespassing and the reduced sky glow and glare reduction. They have also given the lighting zone for that matter. However, their lighting zones are a little bit different than MLO. But at the same time, they have given some important topic wherein the boundary light is coming, how that has to be limited, that is they are mentioning into that. And the light which is coming from the nadir, that is a straight down, which is there, how much uplight should be there, that they are mentioning into tables. So this is the what is their power densities point they have given for the watts per square feet into their standard, how much it should be there. Now coming to the CIE, what they are saying, they are having the zone rating accordingly modified little bit onto that matter. However, they have mentioned ULOR ratio also onto that. This is also one of the point one must consider into while making the rules and regulation. And it is related to astronomical activities. So wherever type of the astronomical activity is happening, then in that case, how much ULR should be there, that they have mentioned into the standard. Now further to the light pollution in the point specified zone, they have also mentioned the influence of the other zone, how much kilometer which is there and how much it has to be mentioned that they have given. Now coming to the new rule of the, which is from the IEC, this is the Institute de Astrophysics of Canaries. Canaries are the islands which are there. They have also formulated their certain rules. And their principle is that your light fitting or the luminaire should be non-polluting, which is the way much is shown into the slide, wherein it should be the non-polluted, it should cover properly, that they are saying. And this type of luminary should be avoided because they are polluting and the light is going up and it becomes a problem for the astronomers. Further, they are saying there should be flood lighting which has to be used, should be the asymmetrical lighting. In case of the symmetrical lighting, what happens is there is a useful flux which are already there. But at the same time, there is a loss of flux which is happening because of the glares or because of the light which is going up. So if we use this useful flux, possibly 25% saving will be happening. That is what they are mentioning. In fact, into the asymmetrical lighting also, some of the glares can be avoided, that they are saying into this. So this is the right hand side, the useful flux coming to the directly onto the focusing onto the area. Left hand side is the useful plus glares, which we can see over here. Another part which they are saying IAC is the lamp source. See, most damaging the lamp source for the astronomy, which is the blue and ultraviolet, because their wavelengths are heavily scattered into the atmosphere, and the least polluting the lights they are mentioning to the 2700 degrees Kelvin. And after the arrival of this LED, in fact, the wavelengths has increased. The spectrum has increased because many of the commercial LEDs have the, the LED spectrum. It's very high. Whereas visible light, which is there, which is usually defined into the range of 400 to 700 nanometer. Now, if the left-hand side visible ultraviolet is there, right-hand side, you have got infrared is there, and between lights are there. Sodium vapor lamp has got 589, all right. But after coming to this LED, now HPSV has gone, LVSV has gone, and we're going into the LEDs. But please remember, there are certain LEDs are happening into that, wherein 275 to 950 wavelengths can be avoided, and we can use a better LEDs. And by using the color temperature of 2710 degrees Kelvin, we can have a proper LED fixtures. This is what IEC is saying. So coming back after this international standard, I will just touch upon the National Lighting Code because this is an Indian standard. All these standards which I will be covering now, although they are talking about light pollution, but they are not giving the direction to the light pollution, how we can do. What we have seen just now is that there are certain things what we have already seen into the standards that they are given the direction into that. But in this standard, although they are mentioning, they are aware of the pollution, but they are saying that it has to be switch off, it has to be illumination to the task, it should be designed after the lighting distribution properly to be done, various standards are to be mentioned. Even IS also mentions about the cutoff, semi cutoff and non cutoff. They have mentioned the lux level also. Even into the building code also, they have mentioned about the light pollution. They have mentioned about the regional landscaping lighting. They have mentioned the reasonable use of that. They have mentioned the watt per square feet about it, about how much should be there at various places, what should be the lux level, etc., which has been given. But in short, what we can understand, the light pollution per se, the subject, which has to be adopted properly into the various standards onto the basis of the main standard which are happening like MLO or the DASCA Association or IES. So they are the good guideline and all the countries should adopt as per their requirement the standard and they have to enhance the standard. That is what we can conclude onto the standard part of that. So coming to the standard, then definitely one has to do the measurement, and then only we can do the conclusion. So there is the lux meter, which you all are aware. What's a lux meter? You can take the lux level. But friends, let me draw your attention onto the sky quality meter, which hardly people are knowing about it. This is the one of the important topic, one of the important meter which is there. If sky is dark, then in that case you can get the reading somewhere at 2021. But if it is dark, if it is not dark, then possibly it will go to 16 and 17, and you can surely say it is a light sky is there. You have to just handhold equipment is there. We can use this and we can understand where our sky is. So now all this we have spoke about is all theory about light pollution and all that thing, standard, etc. But really speaking, how to reduce this light pollution? I would say first is education. We have to make aware among the people what is essential. We have to educate what is meant by light pollution, what is the dark skies concept. Let us rope in all the educational institute, students, college, scientists, and everywhere, and institutes so that they can talk about the and can aware, make them aware. Switch off is the best thing. If you see the manual control, let us adopt the manual control, but there are a lot of astronomical timer controls are being used, timer based controls are there. Let us implement on this switch off thing so that we can use this. Another unfortunate part which is required, that is the construction lighting, but there is a lot of lighting which is done at construction light because of the heavy work. We cannot avoid that, but at the same time, if we take the care properly, then in that case that light cannot get scattered into the sky. Let me show some of the slides onto that. See some of the construction activities going on, the light is there. You can see the road is lit up, but the entire light is going up also there. So let's control over here. So there is a crane lighting which is happening, and because there is a glare is there is a construction activity is happening. You can see that how much light is there. This is the construction activity is happening, and because of that, there is a glare is there is a trespassing is happening, and the pollution is happening. So we have to control over the light fitting. For the outdoor lighting, in fact, where it is used for the ornamental, architectural, street lighting, upward light should be eliminated. It's the basic thing I think we can able to do it and use the bug rated light fitting. I'll come this point again, but this is not known to many of the people. Let's use this, and the lamp source has to be covered in such a way that you can extend the reduce glare. See, let's compare these two figures over here onto the slide, what we can see over there. The left hand side, which is in which you can see B4, U0 and G4, where the right hand side is you can see it's a B4, U3 and G2. Two street light fitting, however, in the right hand side he is giving U3. So nearly 17 to 18% light which is going throwing into the upward, which is going into the polluting the thing, which is getting light wasted. Let's watch where we are. The LCS graph also shows about this fitting. If you see the left hand side, the uplight which is going up is hardly anything, whereas the right hand side fitting which you can see, it's nearly 16%, 17% is there. And although the front light is same, the uplight is more, glare is more. So therefore, one has to see the street light fitting, one has to see the floodlight accordingly, and we can check up where we are. Now, this is applicable for the street light, floodlights, especially in case of the street light, upward and backlight component has to be controlled. Forward light has to be controlled in such a way the glare should not be there, but the road should get illuminated. In case of hoarding light, unfortunately, we have already seen many of the cases light is going above sky. I'll come to that slide afterward also. This is one of the classic example of the street light, how much glare we are throwing into that. How we are illuminating not road but the tree. Over here, a lot of glare is there. We can see there is a holding light is also there. This holding green light is glare is there, and it is harmful for our eyes. This is another facade lighting example, which is making the light pollution. This is also a light pollution, throwing the light into the air. This, unfortunately, we are lighting up the tree, not the road. So this should be avoided. This is one of the facade lighting, how much glare you can see at your eyes. So it means that in case of holding light, the left hand side which is there is the properly usable light, and the other is the absence of glare and absence of the uplight. Whereas the right hand side, if you can see, the usable light is less and more is the glare and more is the upward component. So we can select the holding light properly according to this. Even into the case of the street, you have the sport lighting, which is mainly used or the construction lighting. We can use the floodlight properly wherein the useful light is coming or symmetrical lighting coming and the absence of glare and uplight. And so, as I said to you, it's a very important thing, and less than 3000 K if it is there, as you are knowing, it's a blue color reduction is happening because of this LED which has come up nowadays. So spectrum has increased, HPSU, LPS has gone down, but unfortunately LED has making this higher color temperature sometimes, and the blue light is coming up. But we can select the now LEDs wherein the blue light is less, and which is the most preferred light source for astronomy, and that can be selected by selecting. So therefore, select your lamp source properly. As I told to you, it's a 275 to 950 wavelength lamps are available, LED, commercially available. But we can select with 500 and 750 as shown into the graph. These LEDs can be used, which are available into the market, and we can avoid the blue light, and let's contribute toward the good cause for this matter. The lens and LED and the optic of the luminaire. It's a very important topic which is hardly being noticed by anyone, because if you select the LEDs lens properly, then in that case spillover can be avoided and the entire light will be focused where it is required. So select the lens properly. I'll come to the next slide how the thermal images are coming into that. So the light has to come onto the road, not it should be spilled. See, left hand side which is there is a road over here. This is one of the slide which is there wherein properly placed lens is there. And right hand side which is there is a spillage is over there. This is the road. Unfortunately, there is a lot of spillover we can see. So select the lens properly, then only we can have a proper control into pollution. The manual switch off without compromising the security. Definitely one can do the manual switch off wherever the excessive and additional is there. So if we can keep eye open, then at predetermined time, we can do this. This is applicable for your ornamental lighting or even normal lighting also. This is one of the solution I'm talking about for the dimming lighting. You can reduce 30% definitely, and there is a drastic change happening. Say in the night time somewhere at 1 o'clock to 3 p.m. We can definitely do about it. We can adopt the control. We can use the sensors based control. We can have the lighting based control, and we have seen nearly 30% of the saving. If you do for the 3 hours, we can save on account of 8% of the street light consumption. So it's a very good consumption we can do into that. We can do this practice into thing. Not only that, in some of the places into the dawn area where the daylight come up very early, there you can still reduce down, and still we can do the energy conservation. So these types of solutions are readily available, and we can use this properly and do this. See, festival lighting, definitely we require the lighting for the celebration. I know about it, but at the same time, let's talk about that. Why not to have an on and off control, at least into the night time? Of course, that depends upon person to person, country to country, and people to people. The directional lighting, like airport lighthouses, these are required, but at the same time we can have a properly fitting light made the luminaire properly, so that we can use the directional lighting, and properly design lighting we can improve upon onto this. The definitely trespass for the street lighting. By selecting the thing, we can do this, and we can use the useful lighting and unuseful lighting, which is getting wasted. We can control onto that. So this trespassing can be avoided by selecting the proper street light fitting, so that let's not disturb the sleep of others. This is unfortunately over here, this light is coming up into someone else's flat, and trespassing is happening. This glare is happening. You can see the light which is happening into the trespassing. These are some of the examples. A small thing can be done for the pathway indicators. We can have the fiber lamps, so that we can reduce down that pollution also. So those components can come down. Traffic lighting also we can enhance. We can have the vehicle lighting control. We can modify into that the traffic lighting, so that accordingly this light pollution definitely can reduce down. The glare will come down. Accidents will come down. Local bodies can play a lot of role over here. They can definitely change the lamp source. They can make the community alertness. They can check on this lighting also over there. They can make the everyone visible about it. And this topic can be made visible by the local. So they can take a lot of action onto this. You can bring in the expert, appoint the design engineer for the lighting space, this thing, and plan the external lighting properly, so that this lighting can be designed properly. See, general lighting thinking is that when you want to put a external lighting, and suppose somewhere 1,000 number of poles to be installed, and the tender has to come out, they will just say the 2 or 3 lines tender, wherein street lighting of 150-watt LED. That's all, and there is no technical specification. There is no technical design. There, no one has seen the energy conservation. No one has seen the component. They will change possibly the light onto the top of the existing street light. All these things can be avoided if the proper design can be done, and lighting is not just purely just changing the light fitting, or just changing the 2 or 3 lines tender item things. So I think we can work upon it, and definitely we can do onto that. So what happens into the way forward, that we have got to see into the lamp source, where which type of lamp source we are using into this. Definitely into the lamp source, what type of the lamps is there. If it is LEDs properly mentioned into that, whether all the satisfied things which has been given into that technical specification of the lamp source and LED, what type of lens which is there, and secondly, what type of optic is there for the luminaire, how the luminaire is selected, IP rating which is there. So all this stuff, if you can bring in properly and select the properly the LED, and we do the properly design onto that, we can reduce down the pollution, we can reduce down the glare also, we can effectively use the lighting fitting accordingly. We can bring in the lighting control also, which is hardly being used, so that we can control the lights properly, dim the lights 20%, 30%, 40% as required into that, bring in more and more technology, bring in more and more AI, IoT, and all that thing, and make the smart lighting, and accordingly we can control onto the lighting so that definitely the pollution will get down, but at the same time we can save onto the energy, which is the need of the hour. Can design the system accordingly. The lux level calculations are very important into that, because many of the times we have seen the intended light which is there of say 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, and we are giving 30 lakhs and 40 lakhs, and we are wasting nearly double onto that. So I think those calculation has to be done local by the local bodies, by designers properly, because it is not the only subject of a replacement, it is not subject of only changing of the light fitting, it is not the installing the light fitting for the light fitting per se. It is everything related to the energy, it is everything related to the technology, it is everything related to light pollution. We are talking of the future, we are talking of the economical system, all these things has to be taken. And the last thing which is there is the modify the standards. The standards are good, the rules and regulations are good, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, but please let us put into the throw the light with everyone, have the all heads together, bring in all the standard, bring in rules properly, so that my sincere request to all that we can reduce down the light pollution, we can make a good effective lighting onto that, we can conserve the energy, we can conserve toward the planets, and this is best for our economical system. We can take many measures, as I mentioned to it, and curtail the light pollution. Let's take the measure to curtail. It's now time to take the action. Let future generation see the stars again into the sky. Let us save, let us aim toward the preserving our precious night skies. Let us save our planet and nature, reduce the pollution so that our future generation remain happy and prosperous. Thank you very much, ladies